Are you ready to join me on a journey? For the next 2 hours, you're going to immerse yourself in a wonderful English conversation. This conversation is with 2 American English speakers, me and my husband, Dan. You asked us some wonderful questions related to 3 separate topics: pregnancy, parenting, and education. And during the next 2 hours, you are going to join us on the journey. Make sure that you turn on your English listening ears so that you can understand everything we're talking about. You're welcome to click CC so that you can view the full subtitles for these 3 conversations, or you can just watch this lesson and you will see the key vocabulary appear on the screen. This is to help you be able to catch every important expression that we use. Hi, I'm Vanessa from SpeakEnglishWithVanessa.com, and like always, I have created a free PDF worksheet for you. This is not an ordinary PDF though. This is an extra, mega, super long PDF with all of today's important vocabulary, expressions, definitions, sample sentences. There is so much here, and at the end of the free PDF worksheet is a quiz. I want you to test yourself and see if you can remember the key vocabulary that you learned over this 2-hour conversation journey. You can click on the link in the description to download this free PDF worksheet today. All right, let's get started with the first conversation topic, which is pregnancy. Let's go. All right, are you ready to get started with the first category? Pregnancy.
I'm so ready.
Okay, well, I got a big old belly that's ready to talk about pregnancy. Let's talk about the first question, which comes from Olga.
Olga.
Well, you might or might not know that we have a name for our baby. First of all, is our baby a boy or a girl?
She's a girl.
Yes, so we have a 5-year-old boy, a 3-year-old boy, and now we're going to have a 3rd child who's a girl. Very exciting.
Hooray.
And she has a name.
Yes. What is it?
Well, Olga's question is about that.
Oh.
She says, I love the name you chose, Matilda.
Matilda.
She said, Matilda is my favorite Roald Dahl book for children. Did you have any specific inspiration when choosing this beautiful name? Thank you, Olga. So yeah, what do you think? Did we have any inspiration for choosing this name?
No, not really. I don't know if you did, but so my process was to look at like the most popular names, the top 1,000, basically.
1,000.
Yes, I scrolled through all of them, and I just wrote down the ones that I liked, and I saw Matilda, and I thought, that's a pretty cool name, but I don't think Vanessa will like it. So I wrote down like, I don't know, 25 names, and that Vanessa does the same thing, and she writes down 2 names.
I said no to a lot of names.
She wrote down 2 names. One was Louise, and the other one was Matilda.
Yep.
And I was like, Matilda, really?
Yeah.
And I was like, why? And I don't even know if you had a good answer. What's,
Yeah.
well, I mean, there is no good answer. What is your answer? Because
know.
I didn't even decide it.
I think what sold me on the name was not so much the full name, but I really like the nickname, which is Tilly. I think Matilda in English, it sounds very strong. It's not an extremely feminine name, but I feel like the nickname Tilly is very cute. This is absolutely unknown in the US. It is so unusual in the US, but
To be called Matilda.
Yeah, to be called Matilda or Tilly. I think in the US on those lists, it was like
It's in 400s.
number 400. It was not popular at all. But in the UK, Australia, a bunch of Nordic countries, it was like top 20.
Yeah.
I was so surprised. So I don't know why the US is lagging behind, but we are here
We
to
always are.
bring back Matilda. And it's a old-fashioned name. And our other kids' names are old-fashioned names.
Yeah, it definitely fits in with the other names.
Yeah, Theodore, Frederick, Matilda, and each name has like a shortened version, Theo, Freddie, Tilly. So it kind of fit the theme of our family.
Yeah, we like to have like big, bold names, and then we chop them up into smaller names that sound cute. Although I think I might call her Matilda a lot.
Yeah, we've been calling her Matilda so far.
That name has grown on me quite a bit, because at first I was like, it's really like strong. Like to Americans, it sounds really strong,
Yeah.
I think. Although most people we've talked to, they've been like, Matilda's so cute, I love it.
Yeah,
So
it's really
we've gotten really
unusual.
good reactions
Yeah.
about it. But the more I say it, and the more I hear my kids say it especially.
Oh, it's so cute
like
when they say it.
Theo and Freddie say, oh, how's Matilda in there? It's like very cute. So
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to call her Matilda.
Yeah, we'll
or
see.
Actually, her middle name is May. So that's actually my grandma's middle name. And so we decided to take that and call her Matilda May.
Yeah, or Tilly May.
Or Tilly May.
Yeah.
So I'll probably call her all of those things.
All right, let's go on to our next question. Wafa has a question about deciding to have a third child. She said,
dear.
many families hesitate before deciding to have a third child. So was it your case? Did you have any concerns about deciding to have a third child? This is a deeper question. Did we have any concerns about having a third child?
Well, yes, for sure, both of us hesitated quite a bit. I hesitated less because in my family growing up, there were 3 of us. So actually, it's exactly the same as my family's going to be. So I have 1 brother and 1 sister. Older brother, older sister. I'm in the middle.
Younger sister.
Younger sister. And so it just seemed kind of natural to me to have 3 kids in the family. And so I was into the idea, and I would have probably been somewhat disappointed if we didn't shoot for 3.
Sure. Yeah, we talked about that.
But I would have ultimately been okay with it because, yeah, like when you take out a piece of paper and you start writing down, like, why do I want a 3rd kid? And you're like, I don't even know. Like, this is going to be a lot more work, and we're going to have a minivan forever and stuff like that. So
Yeah, and you don't have to deal with this.
Well,
so it's a lot easier
that's
for
another thing altogether. So
the man to say, oh, sure, let's have 3 kids. And
Yeah.
for me, I think there is a lot more hesitation, and I think rightly so. I want to make sure that it's a good decision for our family. I definitely hesitate more, and I think that that's very normal considering I have to be pregnant, I have to give birth, I have to breastfeed our child. There's a lot more duties on me and, run this business and take care of our other children. So there's a lot of hesitation. But in the end, I think it came down to the question of, what if we chose not to? Would I feel like I was missing out on the unknown? And I think a lot of women feel this, that when they have 1 kid, maybe they expect that they'll have a 2nd kid. And then the question of, am I done? Am I done having children? That's a big question, I think. A lot of moms that I know feel that really strongly. Like, am I done? Can I be okay with being done having children? How do I feel about that? And it's a really tricky question to answer and very personal. So if you have only 2 children, that can be okay for your family. Our family's choice doesn't have to be the same for everyone. So yeah, it kind of came down to, well, are we missing out on something? I don't know. Let's see.
Were you shooting for a girl at all?
You know what?
Did you think about that?
I did not think about the gender because I feel like when you decide to have a 3rd child, especially if you have 2 of the same gender, like us, we have 2 boys, you have to want a 3rd child because you're going to get a 3rd child. It can't be about just boy or just girl.
Yeah.
For us, it was a very great, happy surprise to have a girl, but I think I would have been just as happy. Less surprised, but I think I would have been just as happy to have a boy because the idea for us was, will this 3rd child complete our family instead of will this girl complete our family? So we'll see what Matilda's like. I have no idea. I don't know if my idea of this completing our family will be correct, if we made a good decision or not. But
that's just me.
Yeah, we
cherry on top.
Try to have some high hopes. All right, let's go to the next question. This question is mainly for me, but you're welcome to have any input. It is from Chelsea, and she says, is this pregnancy different from your pregnancy with the boys? Well, you were not pregnant with any of them, unfortunately.
Yes, very different.
I would say this pregnancy is different, but not because she's a girl. That's my guess. This pregnancy is different because it's my 3rd pregnancy, and that makes it a lot harder. So my body hurts more, my belly's a lot bigger than with them, just everything is harder because it's the 3rd pregnancy. I don't know if it's the same for everyone. I know some people have a very smooth, easy pregnancy. For me, this pregnancy is very difficult, and I'm very ready for it to be finished. So that's pretty much it.
Was the morning sickness about the same, though?
Yeah, I'd say morning sickness, which is when you feel nauseous during the 1st trimester, that was pretty similar.
Yeah.
I think it's just that everything happened sooner and my body hurts more in general.
I have noted that with every child, she complains about her body earlier.
Yes.
So,
yeah, and I think that that's very possible. Like, my body is having a harder time this time, and that's normal. So yeah, anyway, it's different, it's harder, but not because she's a girl, I think. All right, let's go to the next question. Now, this was one of our most asked questions, and sometimes this question can be perceived as rude, but because I asked my students directly to ask me anything, it's okay that they asked this, but I want you to be careful when you're talking with a random person who's pregnant. Do not ask this, but now it's okay. So for those of you who asked me this question, it's okay. The question is, can you guess what it is?
Was she an accident or on purpose?
That's it. That's
the rude way to say it.
Yeah, so Gloria asked this in a very nice way. She said, did you plan this baby or was it a surprise? So surprise is a very positive word.
That's the nice way to say it, is a surprise.
Yeah, so I'd like to explain really quick before we answer this why it can be considered rude. And it's not really because it's too personal. It's more because if you did not plan your pregnancy and you just got pregnant by accident, there's kind of a concern, maybe for me. If I got pregnant by accident, and someone said, is this an accidental pregnancy? And I said, yes, I might feel like, oh, they might think I don't love my child.
It puts you on the spot.
Yeah, it kind of feels like maybe you don't care about your child as much as someone who plans their pregnancy. So I think it can make especially the mother, feel uncomfortable. But for those of you who asked this to us, no problem. I allowed you to ask any question.
Yeah.
So
we don't have a problem with it.
Answer.
Especially because
did we plan this baby?
We always plan all children. You cannot be married to this woman and not have a plan.
Yeah, so generally I'm very careful about, I know things could always happen, but I try to be very careful about planning when we have a baby and all of those types of things. I think that that's important for the family unit, important for me. I know that your body and your life is often unpredictable, but that's just how it went for us. The next category is questions about birth and around the birth time. So our first question is from Lucas, and he says, will you give birth at home like you did with Theo and Freddie? Quick correction. I gave birth in a birth center for Theo and Freddie. So it's like a home environment, but they have all of the emergency supplies. Should your baby need oxygen, if you hemorrhage and you can't stop bleeding, they can help you with all of that. And it's a very comforting environment. It's not the hospital, but it's kind of beside the hospital. Anyway, it was a beautiful experience.
Feels like a bedroom.
Yeah, it's kind of like a bedroom, like a really nice hotel room. I feel extremely lucky that we had that available in our city. But about a year and a half ago, the birth center had to close. There was just insurance problems. It was really a big shame. I know the US doesn't have a good healthcare reputation, and this is one of the problems. So the birth center closed down, and I needed to find an alternative. And we had two options. One was to go to the hospital, and one was to have a home birth. Because I already had two very smooth, pretty straightforward, successful, simple births. I feel very lucky about that. I know a lot of people have scary birth stories, but for me it was really empowering and great. Not fun, but certainly, a positive experience overall. I felt comfortable not giving birth in the hospital, so I interviewed a couple midwives who come to your house and help you as you're giving birth, and we found one that we really liked. So I've been having appointments with her. It's just like normal, really. She takes my blood, she does various tests, all of those types of things. And when she comes to the house when I'm in labor, she said she has 3 gigantic bags of all of the emergency supplies and anything that she might need to help me or the baby. And yeah, we'll see what happens. So
She seems very capable.
yeah, very capable,
She's delivered thousands of babies.
yeah. And I think because I've given birth before, I kind of feel more comfortable with the experience in general. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We'll let you know how it turns out. All right. The next question could be more for both of us. And a lot of people asked this. Carmen, Michelle, Evangelina, and Ophelia asked, do you think Freddie and Theo will be jealous of their little sister? What do you think?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I think they're going to be just very excited to see her and be with her. And I think they won't be jealous. I think they might get frustrated if we're doing something with her and they want to play with us or talk to us or something.
Kind of part of jealousy, though. I think that's how kids can express jealousy in a way.
Oh, okay.
It's like extra anger, extra frustration.
They're just kind of like that now anyways. If we're doing something, and they want our attention, they're going to be upset about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Jealousy?
I don't know. They've
I don't think
reacted
so.
really positively to other babies. And whenever we talk about Matilda, it's funny because you know how as adults, whenever we're near babies, your voice kind of goes up like, oh, little baby. You kind of create this like baby voice. Our kids do that too. They'll say, oh, I wonder if Matilda's going to have little cute fingers. And they have that voice too. So you can kind of tell that they are expecting her to be like a cute little plaything. I think it will become harder as she gets older and starts, grabbing their things. Like it's always growing pains, but
Yeah.
I feel like in general, it'll be okay.
Yeah, and I associate jealousy behavior with something like hitting the baby because they're upset
like
that
aggressive.
mommy's holding the baby.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be like that.
In general, what I found is that having a newborn is okay. Having a 3-year-old is the problem. So I expect that the very age-appropriate 3-year-old tantrums that our 3-year-old is experiencing now will also happen later, and it will just be harder for us because we also will have a small baby to care for. So I don't really expect it will be that much more, but it will just continue and we'll have more responsibilities, which will make it trickier for us. So yeah, that's the idea. We'll see. All right. Anna, Gualterio, and Olindo had a similar type of question. Will you have some kind of help with the kids after she's born? Olindo specifically asked about the role of grandparents because he's a grandfather. So he helps to take care of his grandkids, takes them to sports games, and this is specifically about after birth. But they asked, is it normal to have help with your kids, either paid help or grandparent help after the baby's born? So yeah, what will we do? Do we know?
I believe my mom will be here for a while, right?
We'll see how long a while is.
I don't think this is set in stone yet.
It's not.
Yeah.
So because we have other children, even if we weren't giving birth at home, even if it were at a hospital or birth center, you still need someone to take care of your kids while you're gone. So Dan's mom's going to come during the birth and probably the next day. With Theo and Freddie, with Theo, our oldest child, she stayed for like 2 weeks. And then with Freddie, she stayed less time. But in the end, I'm not exactly sure what will happen this time, but we do have several babysitters who help in our daily lives now so that I can film these videos and do my job.
And be sane.
Everyone needs help in their life. So they will also be coming to be with our oldest children and will be with the baby. So it's kind of perfect timing because she'll be born at the beginning of June. Oh, we didn't mention she's going to be born at the beginning of June.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know when, but sometime at the beginning of June.
Maybe May.
And Dan works at a school. So school will be out, which is perfect because we will both be home all summer. So for me, I feel like we can care for me and the baby. And then if someone helps to care for Theo and Freddie, that would be great. Obviously, we'll still spend time with them, but I think I am less worried about someone caring for the baby. And if you can take care of me and I take care of her and someone else takes care of them, we'll be good, right?
Right.
Yeah, we're basically asking all of our friends and family to we don't really need baby stuff. So we're asking them, if you want to give us something, please give us food. Please make a meal and we can put it in our freezer. I think that's the perfect gift. So I think we will be taken care of, I hope. Along with the idea of help and getting help, Sharon and Valentina had an interesting question that shows how not American this is. Is it expensive to have a baby in the US, and will you receive a government subsidy for a newborn baby? That's what I laughed at. So my first thought, and then you can say something about this, my first thought was, if you are already receiving government subsidies, maybe you are on welfare or you get food stamps or something like that, you will receive some kind of care, like some kind of extra subsidy or something to help you pay for baby food or something like that.
You have to be under a certain income level.
Yeah, so if you're already receiving that, you might get something also for your baby. But for most people, the government doesn't care if you have a baby or not.
Well, you count them on your taxes, and you probably pay less taxes.
There's a little bit less taxes because you have for each child, but it's not much. Yeah. It's not worth it.
They certainly don't give you money.
No, and they don't give, I know some countries
they don't give you time off or anything like that.
Yeah, no time off. They won't give you like a package. I know some countries give like a baby package to every new family, and you get, like, it's kind of famous, I think in Norway, where they give you a baby box, and the baby box is big enough to be like a crib for a newborn. And they have like towels and swaddles and bottles and like tons of stuff for a baby. And like, I don't know, that would be amazing if someone wants to send us that. But the government does not do that.
No. Our government's more interested in making bombs.
That's the truth of the matter. So the first question was, is it expensive to have a baby in the US? It depends on what you think about money.
Yeah, it depends on, I don't know. We've just always really worked into our budget.
Yeah.
Child stuff. I don't think it's incredibly expensive.
So I know a couple different costs. The first one is Americans pay health insurance monthly, and that's around, I wouldn't say at the moment it's like specifically a requirement, but almost everybody has some kind of health insurance, and usually your company, if you work full time, will pay like 50% of the health care or the health insurance monthly costs. So if you work for a company, your health insurance is much cheaper than someone like us.
Yeah, we're not the best people to ask because we're self-employed.
And you get the short end of the stick, let me tell you what.
Yeah.
You got to pay the full price of health insurance. You have to find your own health insurance independently. Not fun.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, America is not known for cheap healthcare.
No.
So
yeah. So in general, I would say if you work for a company, you might pay like $100 a month in health insurance. If you work for yourself, you might pay between $500 and $1,000 per month in health insurance. So thinking about that is part of the costs. When we went to the birth center and for this home birth midwife that we're paying, the cost is about $6,000. So our health insurance, we pay a lot for per month, we will get reimbursed. A big chunk of that, over 50% of that, we will get reimbursed. If you have a hospital birth, I know some friends have had a hospital birth, they had a C-section, and they did not have insurance, and it cost $10,000, which is a lot of money.
it's less than I would have expected.
But that's what I thought. I thought it would be like $100,000.
Well.
And usually the hospital gives you some kind of payment plan, so you could pay like $100 every month for the rest of your life or something like that. So that's the cost that I know. I know some people who have, I don't know how expensive their insurance is monthly, but their whole birth was like $25. But maybe they're paying $500 a month in insurance.
Or
more. So it's hard to say exactly. It's a very complicated question.
Yeah.
But if you plan on having a baby in the US, save some money. Don't. Save some money, and just check with your insurance company. I know some insurance companies like ours, you can't start a new insurance company if you're already pregnant. Okay, are we ready to move on to our next question?
I think we should.
Okay, the next question is also a new category. We just talked about pregnancy, then we talked about birth and around the birth time. Next is our life with 3 children. So we have a lot of people who asked the same question. Maggie, Amory, Elodie, and Lizzie all asked, dun, 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 do you want to have another baby after Matilda? First of all, never ask a 7-month, 8-month pregnant woman if she wants another baby. That's okay. I'm just saying that as a joke. But yeah.
Don't ask her to her face.
Let's answer together on 3. Are you ready?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
No!
So this is it. I think I will do everything in my power, and so will Dan, to make sure that this is it. Our family is done.
Yeah, 3 feels perfect to me. I mean, obviously I grew up with 2 siblings, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And I know it was already quite a push for you to go with 3, so 4 is a bit,
Yeah. If we
as close to out of the question as possible.
So the underlying feature here is, if I said in the future that, oh, guess what, we're having a 4th baby, you'll know it was not planned.
That one was an accident.
Yes, so I think 3 is good. My baby, my belly and my body is suffering a lot, so we'll stop it here.
She can finally recuperate after this.
Yes, it would be great to say, okay, now my body is mine. Kind of. I still have at least another year of taking care of a baby with my body. But, the idea that I can go to the gym, I can work out, I can try to repair my body, all of these things. And that's it. I'm not going to get pregnant again and then have to go through all that again. All right. The next one is also a big question, and a lot of people asked it. Ella, Eleonora, Jeff, Anna, and Claudia all asked, how in the world will you arrange your day between your professional duties, housekeeping, and your 3 beautiful children? I don't know.
Babysitters are pretty key. We could have a nanny, honestly, but we have good babysitters already, so.
Yeah, so as far as childcare, our oldest will be going to 1st grade. He's in kindergarten this year. He'll be going to 1st grade. Our second, he's 3. He will be going to preschool, and that's 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, 4 days a week. And the baby will be with me. And Dan will be working at our oldest school.
Our oldest son's school.
Yeah, so he has the same hours, the same vacations.
I take him to school.
Yeah, you help to commute him to school, so that's like a good puzzle piece in our life. As far as childcare, I think the hard time comes when children are sick. Then you just have mad chaos no matter what. But so that's for childcare. I feel like when
that's also the time you work.
Yeah, when Matilda is young, like really young, she'll nap a lot, and I plan to just lower my standards. I'll still film YouTube videos. I'll still, be active in my business, but I'm not going to be making a ton of new courses and lots of new stuff over the next year.
She always does that.
I always say that, that's true. But I do have a lot of help in my business, in Speak English with Vanessa. There's about 10 or so people who participate in helping make this business run, help to edit videos, help to...
She's got a real team now.
Answer student questions, all of this, whether you know it or not. There's a lot of work that goes into making this run. So it's not just me. And I think that due to other people helping, it will continue. Right now, I am working very hard to prepare for the next 6 months. So I would love to, I'm filming a lot of YouTube videos, like 4 months worth of YouTube videos. I have a lot of things prepared in advance, and a lot of the people who are working for the business are also preparing for kind of a maternity leave. I'm still going to be doing something, but it's not going to be as busy. And it's a good thing when you get pregnant, you have 9 months to prepare. So I'm using this time to kind of prepare for the business. And I'm sure at some point Matilda will be taking less naps, she'll be sleeping less, and I'll need to have someone come a couple mornings a week to watch her so that I can do my business, which is what we do now. But I think at the beginning, we'll just take it slow, see how it goes.
Yeah, we'll have some time, especially early on, to just
Yeah.
be with our family, build
Yeah.
a new relationship with this child.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll have help via babysitters.
Yeah. One of the parts of this, it said professional duties, 3 beautiful children, and housekeeping.
Oh,
Yeah, that's why we
who
have
does
Dan.
that? Yeah, right now I'm the housekeeper.
Yeah. So at the moment, Dan does everything for the house. And that's kind of a halfway through pregnancy into the future. Who knows? Maybe Dan will always do all the household chores. Probably not. But I think that's really useful to try to help each other out when you can, especially when, like, having a third child, having a business. Both of us are working part-time, but also full-time, and there's a lot going on in our lives. You just need to be there for each other, really. Which,
Yeah, at least we have the robot.
oh yeah, and we have
The
about
RoboVac, I mean.
10 robots who also live in our house and do everything. Just kidding. Talking about us, though, we have one bonus question. But before we get to the bonus question, Edita has a question about us. She
Yes.
said, how can you keep up your relationship with each other when you have 3 children?
We don't know yet.
How do you do it when you have 1 child or 2 children?
Well, anytime you have a toddler in the house, it gets pretty difficult. Let's put it
Yeah,
that way.
I feel like
Because by the end of the day, you're like, I'm done.
I'm so tired.
We don't have time to work out our problems. It's like, can
Yeah.
I just pass out now?
Yeah, I think anyone who has kids, period, realizes that there's a big extra effort that you have to put into your relationship to
Yes.
like just find the energy for each other. And I think we try to do that. We don't always succeed, but
Well,
trying to find some time for each other is good.
a big thing for us is that we have a couples therapist that we see every week or every other week or so.
Yeah.
And so that really helps us check in with each other.
Yeah.
And having a middleman there really helps, being like, hey, how do I really feel right now?
Yeah. Highly
so-
recommend talking with a couples therapist for anyone who is in a relationship. You don't have to be on the brink of divorce to go see a
You don't
therapist.
have to wait till then.
No, do not wait till then. I know when we started meeting with him, we were like, yeah, you know, our relationship has like normal problems, but it's not like disastrous. And it's been so helpful for us. Like, you don't have to be
Very eye-opening.
at the very end of your relationship to do that. So I think that's been like, it's helped us to understand each other better. And also all of these big life changes, it's like a teacher. You have a teacher kind of guiding you through that because, I don't know, we don't really live in a culture where you have like great-grandparents and grandparents and parents all living together, helping with your life a lot and teaching you about how to do different things. So having a professional give you some insight and ask the hard questions, yeah, that's been really helpful for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend.
We also occasionally go on a date. So,
Yeah, I think whenever we
Yeah.
get a chance to go out to lunch or drop the children off at Dan's parents' house for a couple days, like we're going to do that next week.
Yes.
And it feels so refreshing. And I think just try to take those chances when you can. Don't feel guilty about enjoying spending time away from your children. First of all, your children need other people in their lives, not just you. They need grandparents, they need babysitters, they need a community, not just their parents. So it's good for us, but it's also good for them, I think, too. All right, we have one final question. It is a bonus question. Are you ready?
Bonus.
Yes. All right, well, we've talked a lot about our experiences and our lives, but Ava has a great question. Ava says, do you have any recommendations for someone who's pregnant for the first time? Well, we're not the world's foremost experts, but, you know, we've gone through this a couple times.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think you're an expert.
I think if you've gone through pregnancy one time, all of a sudden you have so much more experience, and then 2 times, and then 3 times.
Well, Does she mean like actually the pregnancy part, or?
Yeah, I would say
Because you're a better person to answer
pregnancy,
that
the mindset, the like your relationship, all of that stuff. I think we could take this question in many directions.
Yeah. Well, I hope that you have time to spend with your partner, for one. I hope the partner's there. That's pretty key. Having somebody who's really your support person is extremely important. So even if the partner's not in the picture, then you're going to need somebody who's like super committed to being with you during that time. So
I think that's a good starting place is having, well, if you're already pregnant, it's too late.
Yeah.
But choosing...
Let's turn the chapter back a little bit. Find the right person to get pregnant with.
Choosing someone who you like and having kids with them. I know like when one of my friends was thinking about having a baby, she's like, I just don't know when the right time is. And I was like, yeah, maybe there's some times that are better than other times, but the biggest question is he the right person?
Yeah.
Because it's never going to be a perfect time to get pregnant, but if you're with the person that you want to be with, in the end, it will work out. Yes, sometimes will be harder than others, but I think the first question is who? And I would say the second thing is, a lot of women who are pregnant for the first time, it's very normal. I was like this too. Do a lot of research and feel a lot more anxious about their first child, especially for us compared to number 2 and number 3. It's not that they are neglected. It's just you're more realistic about what your life is going to be like. So I would say talk to other people who have 2 or 3 children or more when you're pregnant with your first child, because I think it helps to give some perspective when you're worried about, well, is this type of dish or washing detergent. I know like new mothers sometimes think I need to wash my baby's clothes in this specific type of soap or this, like those little things that can really stress you out. Talking to someone who's had more children, just chit-chatting with them, or even if I know there's some great YouTube channels of parents who have like 11 children. Don't look at like the crazy ones. Look at people who seem like pretty normal still. And it can be really grounding to see their kind of advice where like we're thinking about, oh, okay, we have 2 boys and then a baby girl. Are they all going to sleep in the same room? What are they going to do? Like we have 3 kids, so we have kind of a lot of experience. But when you hear about someone who has 6 or 7 children and you see their life living situations, it kind of helps give you more perspective. So you feel not anxious about everything. Yeah, there's some things that are worth spending a lot of time on, but in general, I think that can help give you good perspective. A little tip that I'm just learning now is
a little late,
but it's not too late yet. There's a very interesting book called The Fourth Trimester, and a lot of talk when you have a baby is how to take care of the baby. What do you do with the baby? But a lot of the focus goes off of you. When you're pregnant, it's like, oh, your belly, oh, the mom. But then when you have the baby, a lot of the focus is on the baby. So this book focuses on how to take care of yourself. And I guess the spoiler is that you don't take care of yourself. You have other people helping to take care of you. And you kind of set up you
need your pamper people.
Yes, you set up your life so that the first couple months after birth, you are taken care of. Because it can be a really big shock. It is going to be a big shock starting your life as a mother. And so I think this book would be extremely helpful to a third-time mother or a first-time mother to help you be able to be your best self so that you can come out of the first 3 months of having a baby and you feel stronger, you feel more capable, and you feel like ready for starting that new part of your life. Or I feel like that book would have been very helpful to me. Maybe you live in a culture that really takes care of new mothers. We don't. So I think the ideas in this book were really helpful to me. So anyway, that's my advice.
I think I have another tip.
Oh, okay.
First time mother?
Yeah.
You should go to a birth class.
Definitely.
Yeah, because we went to a class together that kind of...
Go together, yes.
Yes, make sure you bring your partner, your support person.
Yes.
And yeah, they just went over all the different things you can do to not basically freak out and, help the person through it, what all the different signs are during the labor, so you're not totally surprised. And I probably need a refresher. Last time with Freddie, our second child, I just read the paper over and I was like, oh yeah, those are the good tips. And so I was more prepared.
Yeah. And he just came so fast that there's no time to think.
But with your first, it will probably take a lot longer. So it's good to be very prepared, especially the husbands out there or partners of various shapes and sizes and forms. Take a birth class with your wife or partner. And you need to be prepared too.
Yeah, I think that kind of sets you up for the birth, but it sets you up for being parents together because a lot of moms will have a pregnancy app on their phone. I remember the first day of that pregnancy or the birth class, the teacher asked us, so who has a pregnancy app on your phone? All of the women raised their hands and they said, okay, guys, which one of you have a pregnancy app on your phone? And none of the men raised their hands. So if you're the one who's not pregnant, doing a birth class together or, just even having a day where you go over some birth articles or watch a couple birth videos together, those types of things, it sets you up to be partners with your baby. It's not just the mom's duty. There's a lot that is on the mom that the mom has to do and the other person can't do. But in general, that mindset that you're in this together is really important. So yeah, that was a good tip.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on that pregnancy conversation journey. Now we're going to step into parenting. After having that child, we are now deep into the 3-child parenting life. So let's go on to that conversation where you'll see some of your questions that we answered about parenting. Let's go. Are you ready to start with the first question?
I'm ready.
All right, here goes.
What could it be?
The questions are from Alex from Brazil, Claudio also from Brazil, and Vera from Taiwan. They all asked questions about parenting, and the first one is, what has it been like having 3 kids so far? Maybe we should give a little background of our children's ages and all of that.
How many children do we have? We do have 3, indeed.
Yes, so we have Theo, who is 6 now. We have Freddie, who is 3. And we have a new baby, Matilda, who is 2 months old when you're watching this. What's it been like having 3 kids so far?
I feel like what we've experienced so far is not probably representative of what will happen.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, because Matilda, she is just a little baby and she is actually a very, very, very good sleeper.
Oh, so easy.
That's really made it very helpful for us. She takes her nap. And then she wakes up and she's not that upset. And then she takes another nap. And then she sleeps all night. So
that's unbelievable.
Possibly unheard of for a baby. So so far it's been pretty easy on with Matilda. But with the other 2, they, as they get older, I think they kind of, in their own way, get a little harder.
Yeah, they say bigger kids, bigger problems. Generally is how it goes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it will all change as they get older and all go through different stages. But really, I think the most difficult, oftentimes parents ask, what's the most difficult stage? I think the most difficult was going from 0 kids to 1 kid because it's such a huge life change. We were, going to the brewery and trivia night late at night and going with our friends.
We had a nightlife.
Going on long hikes and, doing things spontaneously.
We were camping.
Going camping and
backpacking, in fact.
Yeah. And then when you have a baby, all of a sudden your life changes dramatically.
Now backpacking is carrying the baby down the stairs.
You're always backpacking.
Yes.
So I feel like that was the biggest change and probably the most difficult change. I know a lot of people say going from 1 kid to 2 kids is the most difficult because all of a sudden you're juggling 2 different humans. But for us, at least for me, I would say going from 0 to 1 was the most difficult. 1 to 2, it was trickier.
I think it gets progressively harder.
Yeah.
But I'm not the woman, so
Well, everyone's got their own opinion about this, I think going from 2 to 3 so far hasn't been a huge change.
Not too bad.
maybe it's just because she's pretty chill. And I think that this summer has been really special because you've been home. I've had another parent at home at all times to help with all the children. So instead of being a parent alone with 3 kids, right now we've got 2 parents at home at all times. But when you're watching this, that is changing because school is starting back. Dan's going back to work at the school where he works. Theo will also be going to school. Freddie will be going to preschool, so it will be a little bit trickier. So maybe we'll keep you updated. That's the final answer.
Yeah, I think it's a lot trickier for moms, especially when they're at home.
Yeah.
Now that I've been home for the summer, it's actually been harder for me, I think, overall, because you're always holding or caring for somebody all the time.
There's no
and that's
break.
especially true with the baby, so it's just like cycling through the kids. Who am I tending to now?
Yeah, sometimes we say if it's not one, it's the other. Somebody is always having a problem at all times. Hopefully it's not all 3 at the same time. I think that only happened one time so far. When everyone was crying.
Oh, yeah.
And we were almost there. We were almost crying too.
I don't know. At that point, you just kind of look at each other and you kind of laugh because you're like, what am I going to do now? I don't know. They're all crying.
Well, here we go.
Let's let them
in.
cry.
I know. I saw a picture once. It's a Facebook page. It's also an Instagram page called Humans of New York. Maybe you've seen it before. If not, I highly recommend it because it's a great way to get little snippets of language and culture. Anyway, there's a guy who goes around New York taking pictures of strangers, and he asks them a bit about their lives, and they usually share something pretty interesting, I think. But there was one couple he took a picture of, and they had a young child with them, and he said something like, or they said something about the process of deciding whether or not they should have children. And they're like, I don't know, we like our lives now. Should we have kids? And I think the husband, he said, well, having kids is like the full human experience. The humans have been having children and being around children for eternity. And so she said that when their child is screaming in the bath or having a crazy time, they just look at each other and say, full human experience. And really that's kind of all you can do. Yeah, I get frustrated sometimes, I get angry sometimes, but in the end, you kind of just gotta take a step back and go, all right.
You just keep telling yourself, I hope it will be worth it someday.
We are experiencing the full human experience.
It's not really that bad, though. In general, it's been very nice and very rewarding. That's the word.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about parenting is that on paper, there's a lot of negatives. You got to change your life. It's expensive. It's a lot of work.
Change diapers.
You got to change diapers. There's a lot of negatives on paper involved, but I think anyone who has been a parent, or if you've been an aunt and you've helped to take care of, your sister's child or a grandmother and taking care of other children, it's intangible, the reward. Which, that's a great vocabulary word. Just as a little reminder, we will be talking about some key vocabulary from this conversation in a couple weeks on my YouTube channel, so don't miss that video. Make sure you subscribe to the Speak English with Vanessa YouTube channel so that you can get the vocabulary lesson coming in a few weeks about this lesson. All right, let's go to our next question. Our next question also has to do with parenting, and it's talking about competition. How do you handle competition between siblings? First of all, let's talk about what is competition between siblings.
These are big questions. I don't know if I'm ready for the surprise.
Alex, Vera, and Claudio were not holding back with their questions. Let's talk about what is competition first.
Yeah, competition is where two people can't win. Only one person can win. And so
fighting,
you're kind of competing
arguing
for the one prize. Basically.
Which usually I think that prize in a family is your parents' attention. So there's only 2 of us, and sometimes there's only 1 of us at home. So that competition is often, they're not thinking, I want to be the one to get mom's attention the most. They're not really consciously thinking that, but that's just by nature how it is, that the limited resource is our attention. So siblings, that's brothers and sisters, competition between siblings. Do we do anything about that?
Yes, especially in the sense of our attention. I think we try to give each kid attention, especially one-on-one attention. Although I've noticed that with Freddie, our second one, he definitely cries out for attention a lot more. He does more things to make you say, what are you doing?
Little naughty things sometimes.
A lot more naughty things and a lot more like, hey, look at me, daddy. And stuff like that. So he's a lot more direct about it, I think. And it's probably because he's the second child.
Yeah. I mean, you're the second child. You're the middle child. You're like
Apparently
Freddie.
I was the quiet one, though.
Yeah?
Yeah, like easygoing.
Did you ever...
I was sneaky, though.
I think that's a cry for attention too. It's like doing little things to try to get away with it, and just I don't know. Did you ever feel like you lacked attention from your parents?
Is this about my childhood now?
Yes, we're turning it on you.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, because I was the easy child, and my brother was a little bit more of the squeaky wheel is the expression we use. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. Is that the saying?
Yep.
So yeah, he was a little more of a challenging kid than I was.
So your parents'
at least from my
attention
parents'
was on him.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what I've heard, that they put a lot of attention on him because he was either more difficult or they perceived him as more difficult. And so it's not that you got ignored. It's just that maybe they felt like you didn't need that type of attention.
Well, they just thought that I was like, he's good. Look at him. He's happy. He's doing his thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And inside, I mean, well, yeah. I maybe had some problems down the road because of it, maybe.
Yeah, I think everyone wants as much of their parents' attention as possible. And I'm sure you did too.
Yeah. But I think Freddie is much more direct than I was. He's pretty...
But I think that's good. I want to know what he's thinking.
Very headstrong. He's more your sister than me. Her sister is the second child too.
Yeah, one that will tell you, I want this and I want it now and I'm not going to stop until I get it.
Yeah,
that kind of
exactly
attitude.
what I want.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that was one of my thoughts when we were deciding whether or not we wanted to have a third kid was, will I be able to give enough attention to Freddie? Because it's kind of a stereotype that the middle child gets glossed over or like forgotten. And I love Freddie. I don't want him to be glossed over, but kind of by default, we spent years with only Theo.
He won't let you not get attention.
And then I have a baby, so I have to spend time with her. And so what happens to the middle child? Kind of by default, they get a little bit less attention their whole lives. So I wanted to make sure that that was something that I could handle because, yeah, I love Freddie. I don't want him to get less attention. But I think he's ready to stand up for himself. He's got a strong personality.
Yeah, he does. What about competition with each other? Because that's how I would have initially taken
like
this
fighting
question.
with each other, maybe?
Yeah, or like, I mean, I have noticed that Freddie will say, I can do this the best.
Yeah.
And Theo will be like, no, I can do it better. So they kind of have these little arguments.
I think we try not to compare them with each other in front of them. Like sometimes when we're talking with just each other, when the kids are asleep, we might say like, is this okay? Theo didn't do this and Freddie's doing this. We might talk amongst ourselves about that. But I think it's really important to not say, Theo does this, Freddie, you should do it too. Or Freddie, Theo doesn't do that. Look at him. Like that kind of comparison. It's better to keep it, I think, more general. Like, don't hit. Instead of saying, Theo doesn't hit, you shouldn't hit too. Like, just don't hit. Keeping it as a rule versus like a comparison. Also, I would highly recommend if you have multiple children or if you are a grandparent that has multiple grandkids, there's a book called...
Siblings?
Yes.
Rivalry.
There's a book, Siblings Without Rivalry is like the
that's a different one.
older version. It's Peaceful Parent, Happy Siblings. It took me a moment to think of that. Peaceful Parent, Happy Siblings. I'll put a picture of it right here on Dan's face. This book gives amazing tips about how to help there be less competition between siblings and just have your kids get along. Because I think when I see you with your siblings as adults, you guys get along really well. Like, it's so nice that at Christmas, when everyone gets together, some people dread going
that's
to
true.
like family gatherings because they just fight with their siblings or they just like have a terrible relationship. And I feel like you guys get along, you play games, you enjoy chatting.
Me and my brother can be a bit...
Yeah,
But that's, I don't know, I think that's brother stuff.
yeah, I think compared to what it could be from my opinion as an outsider.
Yeah.
I think that you guys have what I would want my kids to
We've
have.
mellowed out with age, too. There was definitely phases in me and my brother's life where it was pretty contentious.
Yeah? What do you guys do?
We fought a lot, like in high school.
Yeah. Did you ever
Middle school, high school.
physically hit each other?
Yes.
I think that's probably normal.
Yeah. I mean, Theo and Freddie do sometimes, too, but
Yeah.
not too often. I think Theo is actually pretty good at recognizing that he's the older brother and not always being so serious about the competition.
Yeah.
And then Freddie will even like recognize, well, someday when I'm bigger, I'll like get better at this. So they almost both have a little bit of recognition.
Yeah. But the other day when Theo wasn't at home, he was at a friend's house, and we were talking to Freddie, and we're like, oh, what would it be like if you were the oldest sibling, Freddie? He got this look on his face like, I would be bigger than everyone. And I would get to do everything better than everyone. Like
Love this idea.
Yeah, I think that it's just, yeah, like I said, by default, the second kid and third are going to have kind of a complex almost that they're not the biggest, but that's normal. Like humans have been dealing with this forever, so it's not dooming them.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be part of their personality.
I think big picture with our kids, it seems like maybe we're a little bit fortunate that they're not gung-ho, crazy competitive. I think some kids can be a lot more, and they're not.
At least at this point. I wonder if there's like a
yeah.
developmental stage that, well, there's lots of stages we haven't gotten to yet. Our oldest is only 6, that maybe they'll become more competitive.
Yeah, or they're just not touchy about it in the same way. Like Freddie will say, like, I'm like the best digger in the world, and I'm doing it the best, and I'm number 1. And Theo will be kind of like, okay.
Like he knows you're not really, you're just saying that because you're 3.
I'll show you later.
Yeah, I thought that's good. That's good. And having a good foundation for their friendship. I mean, that's the goal. We want our kids to be friends when they get older, and now too. All right, let's go to our next question. This one pivots a little bit from, just talking about multiple children. This question is a little deeper.
Oh boy.
The challenge of raising or parenting children at a time when technology ends up taking over a parent's role. Are tech devices dumbing down our children? And what do we currently do?
Yes, and yes.
What do we currently do, and what do we plan to do as they get older? So I think the essence of this question is...
That's a great question.
How are screens and tech, I think by tech they mean screens, affecting children in general? And then how are we approaching that in our family? Which, that's a big question.
Yeah, I think that's like...
It's something I feel very passionate about, so I think this was Alex's question. Thank you, Alex, for this great question.
Yeah, I mean, I think screens have the potential to absolutely ruin people, families, children.
Adults, too.
Adults.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But children are just, they don't know what they're getting into, so adults at least have control over their lives.
Starting them young is not probably the best idea. And I don't think people appreciate the addictive qualities of these things. Like, people design these to hook you in, so you'll use them for hours and hours. Yeah. And so, for us, I mean, our kids, they do watch stuff on TV, but it's just for like a little bit of time. Yeah. Then they just have to go outside or play. Yeah, so usually... And then they don't have iPods, no computers, no phones, nothing like that. iPads. Back in the future. 2000s. Hey, we used to have iPods back in the day. Yeah, I think that 2 decisions that we decided to make as a family about tech so far. So our oldest... And they're young, so it's a little easier. Yeah, our oldest is only 6. I mean, some people would say it's harder because it acts as a free babysitter. They don't have the friends yet being like, get this thing. Yeah, but what I mean is like, people will give their kid a tablet and it makes the parent have an easier time. Oh, well, that's true. So, the TV is really nice whenever you need a break. That is a very true statement. So the 2 things that we decided to do as a family with tech is, one, we don't own any tablets, but to not give our children a phone or a tablet, so something personal. And instead, when we watch something, we watch it on the TV, so it's kind of a community experience, even if I'm not watching it, if I'm making lunch and they're watching it, it's not
this type of thing. Instead, they're watching together, and it's like a little bit more of a public experience. And I'm sure this will change over time as they get older, but that was kind of one of our goals, because in our relationship, we lived for a long time without a TV in our house. And when we moved to this house, we had to kind of decide how to use it. And especially with children, that's tricky. So we decided no personal device, just the TV. And the second one was have a set time, and also like kind of time of day when they watch something. So this has worked well for us. Our kids are small. I'm sure if you have a 12-year-old, you're saying, oh, you have it so easy.
Well, this works a lot better if you start them young. Like,
yeah,
it's much easier to say, hey, this is what we do, than like, hey, you watched all this TV, let's take it away.
Yeah,
That's
it's harder to go back.
Or
and
here's a
change.
tablet. Never mind, you can't have a tablet.
Yeah.
That's not going to work so well, or it's not going to be fun for a while.
Yeah, so what we have done for our kids is there's a specific time of day. Usually it's before lunch or after lunch, like around this time. And before maybe like a couple months ago, Freddie started to care. But Freddie didn't really care about watching something. He was too young, like 2 years old. He didn't really care. But Theo would choose one program, and this was something that we thought was okay. So I think the quality of what they're watching is important. And obviously that's very subjective, what you consider quality. But we had a couple shows that we thought were okay, and Theo could choose one show, like 30 minutes. He could choose which one he wanted to watch. And when that show is finished, it's done. That's it. So he watched something for 30 minutes. And now that Freddie is also a little bit older and he's wanting to choose something himself, they each choose something. And so they watch for 1 hour most days. I would say in the summer, it's every day.
Not during the school year.
During the school year, they don't watch anything except on the weekends. But I feel like this specific time of day and a specific length. It's not just, 5-minute YouTube videos and then it keeps going and then it's hard to kind of stop that flow. I think as adults, it's hard to stop that when you're watching something, especially something short. There's no definitive end, but for our kids, that has worked so well. There's times, of course, when we turn it off and they're cranky or they're fussy, but overall, this has worked so well. And the truth is, it is harder as parents because we don't use the TV as a babysitter for 4 hours a day. They're not watching, even 2 hours a day. I think at least the science, as of now, 2023, says that 1 hour of TV per day for children over the age of 2 is fine. There's not negative consequences. Obviously, if they're watching, a horror movie, it's not a good idea, but something appropriate for children, that's the guidelines. And that kind of relieved me of some guilt because I was like, my kids aren't going to watch TV. They're not going to watch screens, blah, blah, blah. And then I saw that and I feel like I can trust that 1 hour, limited time over the age of 2. So under the age of 2, no screens are good for kids. But this kind of idea that this is okay can kind of relieve you if you're the kind of parent, I think especially moms suffer from this, who would feel guilty about making a decision about letting your kid watch TV or whatever it might be. Something that
I think most parents let their kids watch TV.
Yes, but I think a lot of people feel guilty about it. They probably do it, but they might feel guilty. So I think this kind of relieved me of some guilt. Anyway, that's what we do. What about the future? Because part of this is...
Well, the elephant in the room is
what do we plan to do? Yeah, what do we plan to do as they get older? And the plan might be different from the reality.
Well,
but do you have a plan?
We don't have a solid plan yet because we're not sure. I have seen these phones that are they're kind of like safe phones for kids, and they can chat. But I guess even chatting can be dangerous.
Yeah.
But
text their friends.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of parental controls on it. So that would be one option. But I probably wouldn't even give them any phone until they're in their, I don't know,
30s.
I was gonna say mid-teens.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know. I don't see any reason why they would need one.
Yeah, I think the trickiness comes when their peers.
Their peers are gonna be pressuring them
have
for
phones,
sure.
And then yeah, they come home and say, Mom, you're the worst mom ever. I don't have a phone. I hate you, blah, blah, blah. And that continues forever. That's tricky.
I don't think they'll necessarily say that.
Mark my words, it will be hard.
I was homeschooled, and I never said that to my parents.
Well, did you have peers, though? Were you at a school where you had lots of peers? I think you were really removed from that.
Oh, well, later on, yeah.
And we were growing up in the 90s. Mm-hmm. It was very different. Like, my family didn't have a phone until...
I got pretty angsty about video games.
There's always something to get angsty about.
Why can't you buy me a Nintendo 64, Mom?
Yeah, I think teenage years are going to be tricky no matter what. That's just the way it goes. I say this as someone who has no teens at the moment, but I feel like as parents, we have a responsibility to deliver our children safely into adulthood. That's like the goal of parenting.
Safely and like not being a drain on society.
I think that's part of that.
Like being a productive member.
Yeah. So part of technology is not just, I don't want you looking at a screen, but there are things about being addicted to technology or chatting with a stranger online that are extremely dangerous. And yes, there will be, I'm sure, a lot of tension about why can't I use these apps? Why can't I use this social media?
Video games.
Why can't I play video games all day? My friends do this. I'm sure there will be a lot of tension with our kids about that. That's inevitable. But I do think that it's a tricky decision to figure out what's the line, but my goal is to make sure that our kids are safe. Not just physically safe, but like mentally and emotionally safe. And there is more and more evidence showing that the more screen time you have, the more apps you use that let you chat with strangers. This is so dangerous and it's everywhere. So I really want to be aware constantly of what our kids are exposed to and kind of like train them to realize that, yes, it's hard. Yes, you're not going to like me about this. Yes, it's going to be, you're going to be different probably from your peers due to not always,
to some degree,
looking at a phone and playing video games all day. But that's still for the best. So it's going to be hard, I'm sure.
I found so far too, having some parents and kids with like minds really helps.
Parents, yeah.
Yeah, like-minded parents and kids, because I don't know if it's going to continue. I think it gets harder, but like as of now, a lot of parents of like younger kids are like, we don't want them to use this stuff all the time. We've seen like what it's done to me or my family, or, you know, like my brother still plays Pokemon until the wee hours of the morning. That's kind of weird. So, you know, stuff like that. So
if your friends, kids have friends that are doing the same thing.
The hope is that they have friends who are kind of doing similar things, and then they won't feel so left out.
Yeah.
Hopefully other parents have enough fortitude to say, you know.
Yeah. And personally, they're
going to put some boundaries on it. Yeah. Although I think there is some gray area, like you can test the waters with some things, make it very clear up front and see how they handle it.
Yeah.
But I think the internet in general is so unbound, the way that you can just, you know, 2 clicks away, pornography.
Yeah.
Stuff like that is just like really rampant all over the place.
Dangerous for children.
And so I think that's a really difficult area to say, here, you can just, go ahead, kid. Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of the idea of keeping our children's minds and bodies safe. And the internet is quite unknown, but I do have hope that as especially our generation grows up as parents, there's more information and more studies, and I think there is kind of a movement away from unlimited technology for children
or just people in general.
Yeah, for people in general to say, I don't really want to look at Facebook all day. Yeah, I don't really want to watch YouTube all day, except for Vanessa's videos. No, don't watch my videos all day, please. But this kind of idea that we're becoming more aware of the addictive quality. So I have hope that in the future, there will be more people who want to just be careful about their kids' consumption of technology and screens and whatnot. It's not all bad, but you definitely have to be very careful. All right.
That bad is always hiding around the corner.
Yes, lurking. All right, let's go to our final question. We do have a bonus question. Let's see if we have time to get to it. But the fourth question is, how do you and Dan usually manage the housework and the childcare? How do you decide which of you will take care of what? And the little extra part of this question is the student asked, I'd like to know some common expressions to ask someone, like, can you wash the dishes? I'll do the dishes for you. These types of expressions. So, little teaser, when I talk about the vocabulary from today's lesson in a few weeks, I'll give you some expressions to talk about chores, about how to delegate chores, like, oh, I'll do the dishes for you tonight. I know you're really tired. Those types of expressions. So coming soon to a YouTube video near you. How do we decide who will take care of what?
Well, first of all, I have to preface that I think we are pretty mid-tier in the chore category.
Oh, what's
we're not
that
like
mean?
the most cleanly people on earth.
Oh, yeah, we're not.
Maybe a little more than average.
Fastidious? Is that the word?
Yeah. Like, for example, we have cleanup time with the kids at night where we just pick up stuff and try to put it away.
I think that's pretty normal.
Yes.
Like tidy a little bit throughout the day and at the end of the day.
But what I was going to say is it doesn't happen every day.
Oh, yeah.
Some days we don't do that.
Yeah, I think
and then it
that's
just
fine.
ends up probably you walking by grabbing stuff like again.
Yeah, that's one of the chores, like tidying up, but other chores are continual, like laundry and dishes and
Yeah, the big ones.
oh, our car needs to be maintenanced, or the kids' tuition, school needs to be paid, or whatever it is, like these types of things that just keep your life running. How do we decide who will take care of what?
Well, when you were pregnant, I basically said, I am going to do every single chore.
I had a big chore of growing a baby.
I did the dishes and the laundry. Those are the big ones to me.
And tidying up and putting the kids to
Tidying
bed.
up.
That's a big chore.
Well, I tidied up everything on the floor because you can't get stuff on the floor.
I know, my belly was so big I couldn't.
But for a
pick up.
while, I think you were still doing like cleaning off the tables and stuff.
Yeah,
You know.
minor things.
Lawn work. I used to do the lawn work. In America, that's a big thing. You got to mow your lawn.
Yeah.
But now we pay somebody to do that because
It's a big task.
I had that good old red-blooded American in me that said, no, I got to mow my own lawn. And you were like, I'd rather you just like spend some time with us.
Yeah, especially
So.
because we have a pretty big yard. So that task, especially for this time in our life when we have small kids, it's better to delegate that to someone else. I feel like a big thing that worked for us was
Excuse me. Delegating.
for delegating. Yeah, was just really treating it like a business, which I think the home is kind of like a business.
That's how you saw it.
We had a meeting. I remember
We did have a meeting.
we went out on a date, so try to have a little fun. We went out on a date, went to a restaurant, a couple drinks, nice food. We brought a notebook and we wrote down every chore. Little things like fixing the car or,
That's not a little thing.
well, like maintenance on the car or checking the bank account, looking at our health insurance, what these little things that come up, scheduling doctor's appointments for the kids or ourselves or whatever. These types of things that kind of add up. We wrote every single one down and based on other things. So, am I pregnant? Am I not? That's also a big responsibility. How much am I working? How much is Dan working? And not just hours, but that like mental load of you're working on a big project or whatnot, those types of things. Who did what chore? So we just wrote down
Putting the kids to bed.
putting the kids to bed. That's a big chore.
Man.
We just put D or V based on who did what. So this kind of strict delegation, but there was a little asterisk, I think we put on this that said, and I think this is an important part of a healthy relationship, if I can say this, is that when one of us was not capable of doing one of those chores, for example, like the dishes, if the kids were having such a hard time going to bed and you were like really overwhelmed by that, I would do the dishes. So there's a little asterisk of we help each other out. We're not going to say, nope, it's not my chore. I will never do it. But we were willing to help each other out. But in general, like you wrote down, Dan does this, you do it. It's your chore. And yeah, kind of just figuring out what works well because we both work. We both take care of the kids. If one of us did not work, totally different situation then because that person's job is the home.
Is the household.
It is the children, and you take that seriously.
It's kind of harder than a regular job, really, if you do it all by yourself.
I think every
gets crazy.
Every stay-at-home parent would absolutely say that.
Yeah.
That going to work
It
is a
depends
break.
on your job, but
Yeah.
still.
Generally, for me, taking care of the children is harder.
By yourself,
Especially by yourself is the most difficult, and then going to work is like a break. It's like, oh, it's quiet. I can focus. I can accomplish a task from the beginning to the end without being interrupted. Like that feeling is much different. It's
You can go to the bathroom without a child barging in on you.
Wow. So yeah, I think that's generally how we handle it. And we change it over time because we have 2 kids and Dan's working from home with me. Dan worked from home with me. Actually, that's our bonus question. Dan worked at this business, Speak English with Vanessa, for several years. So that was a very different situation. We had similar type of jobs somewhat. We were both home. So yeah, we had to kind of organize and delegate our chores in a different way. So basically whatever works for you. But I highly recommend having a meeting, writing down all the things that need to be done, and then determining who does what, but working on it together, because it can be a big point of contention, I think, for a lot of couples.
Yeah, I do think it's a lot more cut and dry for a lot of people. Like, especially if one person does the work and makes the money for the house, it seems like a lot easier to be like, the other person takes care of almost everything at the house.
Yeah, I think
That just kind of makes sense.
It's also important to determine what happens when that person comes home.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the person
that can get contentious.
Yeah, I think that's why it's important to talk about it and like write down the stuff. What do you do on the weekends? Because
Just
everyone
know the
needs a break.
expectations.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to assume. You don't want to be the guy who just kicks his feet up and puts them up on the chair
Oh yeah,
while the wife is making the dinner.
yeah. I think making sure that everyone
Sometimes that's fun, but
and not fun for the person making. Actually, you know what? In our house, making dinner is a break.
we like making dinner.
I like making dinner because if I've been with the kids all day, making dinner is like, I can focus on this task. And sometimes we make dinner with the kids, but in general, I think that you just decide what's best for your family, but it's best to decide together and kind of work through that before somebody explodes. Generally is a good idea. All right. Thank you for those wonderful questions. We have a bonus question. Would you like to answer a bonus
I thought
question?
we already did the bonus question.
We did not do the bonus question, but I hinted at the bonus question.
Okay.
The bonus question is, dun dun dun, how is Dan feeling going back to work after helping you to teach us English for a long time?
Wow, I didn't know they knew about that.
Yes. Yeah, well, some of my my students in my course, the Fearless Fluency Club, they have been a part of our lives for a long time. They're privy to all that information. So just as a little background, Dan taught and worked with me at Speak English with Vanessa, making videos.
Behind the scenes. helping writing
with
stories.
Courses, all of that. And then, yeah, tell us what happened. September last year, what did you do?
Yeah, so now I teach at my son's school. I was an assistant teacher last year, and this year I'm going to be a co-science teacher. It's an alternative school, so it's not like a regular classroom setting. It's a little bit more integrating outdoors, so the kids are actually outside for half the day, and so that's like a big goal or mission of the school. So that's what I've been doing, and I like it a lot. I like being able to go out and do my own thing. It's not so much working with you, but like working with a partner all day long and living with them and then having kids and like everybody's in the house. I think that got a little bit old.
Yeah, I think it's healthy for us to be part of the community because especially
when technically you were my boss.
Yeah, I think deciding what
That
works
can't last that long.
best for your relationship. But I think even for our family, you working outside the home, you working at Theo's school especially, like you.
That's been good.
That's been great. Like you've been able to, at least I feel good that Theo is with you during the day. You're not his teacher at school, but you're at the school kind of with him.
Not yet.
Someday maybe you'll be his teacher. but kind of connecting us to the community more. Like you have coworkers. If anybody has either worked from home or moved to a new country and then worked remotely, or just this kind of isolation that's prevalent when you work from home, it's really nice to be connected to the community in some way, and work is a kind of easy way to do that.
Yeah, and I think also, being perfectly honest, there are some patterns that people just can develop as like work partners or even just home life, and like we had kind of developed something that was not good.
Yeah.
That wasn't fun for us. Fun.
It wasn't working.
It wasn't as
long
healthy
term.
as it could be.
Yeah.
And so we were like, we need to change something.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I think that was good of us to be able to decide something needs to change. And
we weren't at each other's throats or anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's important to realize in our relationship. So Dan works at a school now, and question was, how do you feel? You said it's going well.
Yeah, it feels great. Yeah, I like it. This works. I think this works really well. I kind of get to go out and forge my own path in some ways. I don't feel like I'm kind of tinkering around the edges of this business, which is a great business. And it's like, yeah, it's amazing. And you guys are awesome. Vanessa's amazing. Amazing. But yeah, it's just going off and doing my own thing for at least part of the day, I think, has done a lot for me personally.
Yeah, so. I think it's done a lot for our family too.
And for our family, yeah.
Yeah, because I think when somebody in your house isn't feeling well, I wouldn't say you weren't feeling well, but like you weren't at your best.
At times I wasn't so happy.
Yeah, that really affects the whole family unit. So I'm glad that you are feeling better.
Yeah, and we just saw each other in Neighbors mostly, so that was kind of like...
Yeah. It's nice to have
we
other
had friends,
people in
but
our
like
lives.
it just felt different, even though all of you are our friends, but we don't get to see you every day.
You know what I mean.
Well, thanks for joining me on that parenting conversation journey. Now it's time to move on to a new page, education. Many of you asked us some great questions about education in the US, our education experiences, and we talk about it for the next bit. So I hope that you will immerse yourself, learn something new, and have a great time. Let's go. All right, Dan, are you ready to get started with the first question that our students have asked us?
I'm ready to get educated.
All right, let's do it. These education questions were asked by my student Carmen from Italy and Mai in Australia. Are you ready for the first one?
I'm ready.
All right, the first question is, what age does school start in the US? That's where we're from, the US. And what does the education system look like? So let's start with the first question. What age does school start in the US?
Yeah, so a lot of kids go to some kind of school around 4 years old. So this would be preschool. And in a lot of cases, this is not provided by the state.
Yeah, this is something that parents have to pay for out of pocket.
And I would say this is like kind of like daycare, except maybe a little more education peppered in, because they're really little kids.
Yeah.
And then official school is kindergarten, which starts around 5 or 6 years old.
Yeah.
And this is where real school begins. We're sitting and trying to learn our letters and alphabet and reading, and here's numbers and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then elementary school would be 1st through 5th grade. Yeah, 1st through 5th grade, which is probably, 7 to 11 or 12?
Yeah.
Something
10,
like that.
11 years old.
Yep, and then it moves on to middle school, which is everybody's favorite time of existence, 12 to 14.
This is a great example of sarcasm.
Oh yes, this is sarcasm. Yeah, middle school, not known for being the most fun time. And it's funny because a lot of kids are like moving at this time. Like they're going in, they could be going to a different school, different classes.
Yeah.
And then you're going through this awkward time in your life. And here's some other new people for you. It'll be fun. So yeah, that's an interesting time.
Usually middle school has the stereotype of being pretty rough, pretty tricky. And then after middle school is high school. And by that point, you're what, like 14 years old?
You're a real man.
Like 14 through 18 years old. So you're not right at the beginning, the cusp of puberty. Instead, you're a little further in and maybe a little more mature, maybe.
9th grade is still kind of awkward.
9th grade is still pretty
Because
rough.
when you're in 9th grade and you're like 14 or 15, and then you see like a 17 or 18-year-old, A lot of especially if you're a guy like me, puberty can hit all of a sudden and then you'll be a man versus like I was, a boy.
A little boy when you're in
Yes.
9th grade.
Hi, guys.
Yeah, so this is the typical progression of school. And there's a couple different options in the US. You could go to public school, which is free. It's paid for by your taxes. So if you pay taxes, it's technically not free.
Free, not free.
Yes, free, not free. It's paid for by the state. You could go to public school. You could go to a public charter school. So this is kind of a nuance where you don't have to pay extra to go to a charter school, but it's somehow...
It's run privately.
It's run privately. It's smaller. Usually the programs have a little bit higher quality. And to get into a charter school, you often need to do a lottery. And this isn't like the lottery where you try to win $1 million. This is where you just sign up and they pull a kid's name out of a hat, totally random. And if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't. So it's not based on your income. It's not based on where you live, because most public schools are based on where you live. You have to go to the school in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
But a charter
Kinda
school,
stinks.
yeah, especially if you live in an area that's really poor, well, your school is probably not going to be very high quality. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of controversy about that because it's kind of a cycle.
Yeah, it's definitely a cycle.
You don't have as many resources to get out of poverty and all of that. So we've got public school, charter school, private school. I have a little statistic here I looked up in advance. Fancy. Private schools, 9% of students go to a private school, and parents have to pay extra for a private school. It could be a religious private school. It could be a secular private school. Our child, Theo,
He's probably in the 1% because he goes to a nature school.
it's not
He's in the
religious based.
0.5%.
It's a very unusual private school, but there's also other types of private schools, like a nature school, where half of the day they spend time outside in the woods, or the teachers try to incorporate the outside nature into the lessons.
A lot of times these schools will call themselves alternative education, so that just means we're trying to do something different here.
Yeah, yeah, and there's varying degrees of quality. Just
Yeah.
because you're paying for it doesn't mean that it's going to be vastly better quality than the free public school. So if you come to the US and you think, I want my kid to have the best education, I think I can afford to pay for private school, make sure you check it out first and make sure that it's actually the quality that you want. There are a lot of scholarships, actually. So the school that our son goes to, a lot of people have an 80% scholarship to go to the school, which makes it very affordable. The state has scholarships. The school provides some scholarships. There's some grants given to the school to provide scholarships. So they're trying to make it more accessible.
Yeah. Most schools, especially private schools and anything education related, you're going to find a lot of organizations that will try to help kids get into whatever they really, really want. And the government helps with that as well in America.
I think a lot of it comes down to the parents having the ability to sign up, follow through with the applications, sign up for the scholarships.
Yeah, that doesn't mean it's easy.
It doesn't mean it's easy, but it is an option. There's a fourth option, which is what Dan experienced when he was a child, homeschooling.
Look at me.
So interestingly enough, what percent of Americans do you think homeschool? This means that generally, don't peek, your mom
This is what I learned in homeschooling.
your mom or your dad is your teacher. Usually your mom. And there's like local organizations that you can join weekly, like a co-op. They call it a homeschooling co-op. What percent of American children are homeschooling as of 2021 or
Well,
2022?
I would have guessed it was very low. See, I think I looked at your phone earlier and saw it.
cheated.
Well, you showed it to me.
Okay.
But I would have guessed like 2%
Okay.
before seeing that.
Okay.
But I think it's higher,
Yes, the answer is 7%.
which is pretty high,
It's
actually.
almost the same amount as go to private school.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, so 7%. And the interesting thing
I guess
is,
it probably bumped up after COVID, too.
yes, that's the big thing. So before COVID, it was, I think, 4 or 5%, and now it's 7%, and it's growing 10% every year. So it's hard to
Yeah.
talk about those stats,
And
but it's growing every year because of all the changes in education.
Yeah, and private or public schools gotten kind of like a bad reputation as well. I mean, there's varying qualities, but a lot of people where they live, their school is not very good. And it's not just teachers, it's also like the peers you're with, and it's kind of, I don't know. I mean, obviously I teach at an alternative school, so I'm not a big fan of the traditional model, and I don't like all the bureaucracy and not to say that there's not a lot of good-hearted people in the system. I just think that the system is, well, it might sound a little cliche, but it's broken.
Yeah. So those are the general options in the US. And I think the cool thing is that if you choose an alternative option, private school, charter school, homeschooling, it's not seen as very weird. It's unusual. It's not the majority, but you're not like an outcast. You're not so weird, like, oh my goodness, you homeschool? It's not like that generally. It's just, oh, okay, someone does something different. I think that's kind of like in the American culture.
That is very much an American culture thing.
Yeah, you accept people, try to accept people who do different things.
And because we lived in South Korea for a while, like we felt that difference so big. Like we never met anybody who homeschooled there. We met like one family.
Yeah.
And we're like, whoa, this is amazing.
Yeah, like everyone uses the same education system, and deviating from that norm is really unusual in that
or
culture.
even looked down on. But in America, if you do something different like that, people, they may like sometimes go and like whisper about it or like say, I don't really agree with that, but they'll never tell you to your face that they have a problem with that, just like a decision you might make, especially a personal decision.
Dan was homeschooled until how old?
Yes, until 13, I think.
Okay.
Yes, until middle school.
And Dad's pretty
roughly.
cool.
Yes, and I feel like homeschooling today is way better than it was when I was a kid. Like,
way more resources.
I think that what I experienced, I don't want for my kids, but today I can kind of feasibly see how you can, build up certain social exposures, have certain groups.
Yeah.
There's a ton of resources online.
Yeah. And your mom certainly did the best that she could do.
My mom did a good job. I think it was just, for me personally, I don't think it fit what I probably needed as a child.
Like
looking back,
needed more pressure to
I needed
have deadlines and stuff.
I needed another authority other than my mom, and I needed a bigger social circle and a little more structured education. I think would have been good for me. Not that my mom wasn't somewhat structured, but it's just it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, homeschooling in the 90s compared to homeschooling now, 30 years later. That's crazy. All right, let's go on to question number 2. Do most American students go to universities after their graduation? Is it considered important? Let's talk about like our general feel first, and then I've got some stats about how many people actually go.
I haven't looked at the stats.
Okay.
This time I didn't make it that far.
Let's hear what's inside your heart, Dan.
So I think, yes, people generally go to, we would say college, but I think a lot of the world would say university. I don't know the percentage, but I would say...
What's your guess? Is a good time?
75%.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
What is it?
Okay.
No. It's not 92%, 61%.
I think this is showing your bias because
50%. I don't know which way the bias is.
Let's say that. So for us, we have a 4-year degree, and that's what you call it when you go to college for 4 years. You could have a 2-year degree. It's called an associate's degree or a 4-year degree. And we have 4-year degrees. And I think there's been some studies that show like if you have a 4-year degree, most of the people in your social circle also have the same or close to the same level of education.
Yeah, everybody I know is educated.
So that's why you think it's so high.
Dang it. I should have thought about that.
Okay, so let's compare 1990 to 2021.
Okay.
In 1990, the people who graduated high school were 77%. So 77% of students graduated from high school, and 20% of people graduated from college. Okay, 2021, 91% of people graduated from high school, so much higher percentage rate, and 38% of people graduate from college.
I'm way off.
Yeah, so it is higher.
It is bumped up a lot, though.
And all of the charts that I saw were all going up. So finishing high school and college are definitely on the rise. Not 70% or whatever you said, but it probably is 70% of the people we know, which I think is quite interesting. And that's kind of part of the cycle of education, I think, that if you don't know anyone who's been to college, it probably won't be a priority for you. And it will be harder for you to go because you won't have people who know how that process works and all of that. But if you've been to college, like us, it will be easier for our kids to do that process because we've been there.
I'm glad I could be instructive of a fallacy, my personal experience. But
thanks for being willing to be the fallacy in front of millions of people online.
You're welcome, everybody.
But this is also a part 2 of the question. Is it considered important?
Oh, well, again, this probably goes to your social circle because in my social circle, it was super important. And I think this is probably family by family.
I would say it's almost expected. If your parents are college graduates, it's almost expected. Of course you'll go to college.
However, I think I have heard from certain, like our neighbor, I think she said she was the first to go to college. And like it was like looked upon as like great, but it wasn't like expected. And but as a society, it is definitely encouraged. Like, there's ads playing on the TV and YouTube, and every teacher will tell you going to college, and I'm just going to say university because more people say that probably. Going to university is going to be a great benefit to your life and all this kind of stuff. So I think that is definitely pushed in society. That probably is another reason why I think that a lot of people go. But I'm also forgetting about how expensive it is.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that it's really expensive. I would say anywhere between $30,000 and $200,000 for a 4-year degree, depending on if you go to a community college or if you go to a state school or if you go to a private school. It can range anywhere in there. And that's a big burden for a young person starting off in their career to pay
the state
those
schools
loans.
Aren't cheap or free?
They're not cheap and they're not free.
Okay.
They're cheaper than private schools.
Yeah.
It's a very complicated system, but
I think I'm a little ignorant in this realm because I haven't thought about college in a while, but we went to a small private school and like that's known for being like pretty expensive. But
for me, I had to get a lot of scholarships to go to that school. So I applied for tons of scholarships. The school also had scholarships. And it was pretty much required. If I was going to go to that school, I had to have a lot of money already paid for. Otherwise, it was just too expensive. But I think it's interesting because of our experience. We felt, if I can speak for you too, we felt pretty burdened. Even though we had scholarships, we felt pretty burdened post-college to pay back our student loans. When you start off your adult life in debt, that's so hard. And my parents tried so hard. They paid a lot of money. I had a lot of scholarships and I still had college debt that I had to pay back. So even though I think I was probably starting off in the best possible position, it still felt like a burden. So I think for us, at least for our children, I have no idea what the education scene will look like in another 15 years. But I think that we might have a different perspective on college because we've been there. We know what it's like. We know if it helped us or not in our life and how expensive it is and if it's worth it. Like, are there other alternatives? Yeah. And in our changing world, those might be better. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it's a cliche among people our age that college is not worth it.
Yeah.
And that it's just way too expensive for what you get out of it, and it doesn't really prepare you and all this stuff.
I think if you graduated like 2005 to 2010, 2000, around that, 2000, maybe even 15, in that range, you probably feel like us that your degree does not mean you will get a good paying job. It's not a given that will happen.
Yeah. I think initially when we went to college, there was like a transitional phase where everything was getting a lot more expensive, and that cost benefit analysis was maybe making less sense, but a lot of our families were still saying the same message, that you just have to go, even if you're not even sure what you want to do, which was in my case, which I think didn't help me.
Yeah. Well, my job didn't even exist when I went to college.
Yeah.
This job, teaching English online, was not even an option. So, I don't know, it's tricky.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what the future... I don't know what the future holds, but
Well, you
I feel like
don't?
the world changes really, really fast, and that I will certainly not tell my children they have to go to college.
Yeah.
And that like this will make all the difference. I'll be like, well, what exactly do you want to do? Let's get in that program. Let's look at the cost benefit analysis of how much it costs and like really dig in there. Unfortunately, I don't feel like my parents did that, but
I think their generation really was the last generation who said, I'll get a university degree and that will give me a good job, and it worked. So their expectation was what happened to them, but that's not how it is now.
Yeah.
Anyway, who knows what will happen in the next 10 to 15 years for our kids, but I certainly won't pressure them, and I won't feel disappointed if they decide not to go to college, as long as they are independent adults, trying to do something different. And I'm going to transition to the last question and skip one question, actually, because I think you're about to say something about it.
Oh, am I?
I'm going to guess.
Okay.
Because it has to do with what happens if you don't get a college degree. Is it hard to find a job if you don't have a university degree? I did a little bit of research about this, but what's your gut say?
If you don't get a university degree, is it harder to get a job?
Yeah. Like if you didn't have a degree right now, would your prospects be more difficult?
It probably is. I don't think it has to be, but I do think that I don't know if I've actually read like a study about this, but I think I heard in a podcast that is like something that employers will look at, and they'll be like, all right, check off 4-year degree. Like they'll just kind of assume that means a lot. So I do think it does mean something. Unfortunately, I don't think it has to be. I think that you can probably really get well educated without it nowadays, and I think that might even be preferable when you consider how much it costs. So other than like there's a lot of social experiences. However, a lot of the social experiences are like getting really drunk and misbehaving and stuff that doesn't really have anything to do with keeping a job.
Of American college is that you just go there, get drunk, sleep with a lot of people, and then maybe you stumble into class once a week.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense.
And then you pay lots of money for that. That wasn't my college experience, but that is certainly...
Oh, it was there.
Certainly what happens to a lot of people.
Right. So yeah, but I'm still saying that it does, unfortunately, probably still matter.
Yeah, I would say that that's probably the case for specific careers. So what I saw was like, of course, if you're going to be a doctor, if you're going to be an engineer,
well, yeah.
If you're going to be like in the medical field, those very specific technical type of jobs that require education, that education is probably necessary. But for other careers, what I read online said, is a college degree necessary? Yes and no. The yes was, if you want to be in those specific career fields, yeah. If you're going to be a nurse, go get a degree in nursing and you'll be fine. I think it's actually even a 2-year degree.
Yeah.
Like, that's amazing.
That sounds preferable to me, like some kind of 2-year program. I feel like you can learn maybe not anything, but a lot of things in 2 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be 4 years.
But it said, if you want a job that usually says we require a degree, or they highly recommend a degree in their application, maybe like a software engineer or something like this, if you are an assertive person who has done a lot of alternative experiences, now this takes a specific personality type, I think.
Gotta have something for that resume.
Yes, you have a good resume. You've interned. You have maybe taken some extracurricular classes at the local college, or maybe even some online courses about that specific field. It doesn't have to be a degree.
There's a lot of alternatives out there.
Yeah, that you can, by your assertiveness, which is really what people are looking for often. People who will see a problem and fix the problem. The skills can really be taught, but that personality and character quality can't be taught as much. So if you show that, then you could get in. So for example, this isn't about a job, this is about getting into college. There was a homeschooler who had been homeschooled their entire life, and they wanted to get into a huge university. I don't think it was Harvard, but it was like a really high level university. And what they did instead is they wrote out, of course, every charity they worked with, every volunteer experience, all of this, but they also wrote a list. The second page of their application was 100 books that I read last year. Holy cow, that's like 2 books a week. They wrote out everything that they had read and in order and all of this, and it showed their assertiveness. I'm gonna be a good student, I'm gonna be dedicated. And I think for a lot of jobs, if you can be outstanding like that, then who cares if you have a degree, ideally. A little example too is someone who works for me, Laura. Hi, Laura, if you're watching. She helps to write some of the sales content, like sales emails. She's called a copywriter. When I interviewed her, I don't even know if she has a college degree. I don't even know her official education, but her application process, her experience, and she had taken the initiative to do some online copywriting classes and had been working on and off for some other businesses doing their writing as well. So she had this kind of initiative, and that's really what I was looking for, was someone who was organized, took the initiative, creative, and was interested in the job. She had taken some classes of her own volition and really done it, and that's why I hired her.
Yeah.
And she's been amazing. Actually, a lot of my students who join my courses, they say that their job didn't require them to take English classes, but they write on their resume, completed 3-month English course with Speak English with Vanessa.
Yeah.
And this is like
You're an institution.
it's not a 4-year degree. It's not an IELTS certificate, something official like that, but it shows that you took the initiative.
I think she's pretty official.
And it showed that you're willing to go the extra mile and to try to do your best. So I think that's a good example of a way that extracurricular education can enhance your career as well. Well, talking about internships, I'm curious, in your country, is it common to do an internship? I think in Germany, it's maybe required that you do a year internship after high school, that it's like part of the system. I'm not sure. If you're from Germany, let me know.
That sounds like a better system to me.
That you
but
get,
I don't know if that's
like real world experience in the world.
Yeah.
Doing something. But I feel like for me, that would have been pretty helpful just to kind of get out of the education system. I felt very overwhelmed going from high school to 4 years of college. And then I had part-time jobs working in restaurants and these types of things, but nothing like a career. And by my 3rd year of college, I just felt like, I just want to go out into the real world and try to get a job. I don't want to. Yeah, I want to do something. And it's not common in the US to take a gap year. This is a common thing, I think, in Europe and Australia, that after high school, students will take a gap year and go out and do something.
Good job, Europe.
Go be a nanny. Go volunteer on a farm.
I think when we were...
travel in Southeast Asia. Do something.
When we were in France that one year, we did meet some like younger people who seemed to either be taking a gap year or doing some kind of intern thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like that a lot. In the US, it's kind of strange that you graduate high school and you have this big ceremony and congratulations, you get to move on to more school.
Yeah, I pretty much guarantee that if you were in the US and you graduated from high school and you said, I'm going to take a gap year and then I'll decide what I want to do, every single person will say, if you don't go to college now, you're never going to do it. This is your chance to do it now because you'll forget about it, or you won't have the motivation to do it, or you'll forget about education and forget about math, these types of things. But in reality, if you're not meant to go to college and you wait a year and you decide not to go to college, well, maybe that was a better path for you. I don't know. I feel a little biased because I saw people doing that, Europeans who were doing that gap year, and I felt really jealous. Like, I would have loved to do that. But it's just not in American culture. Maybe it might start becoming part of it as we kind of learn more about Europe. We're like 10 years behind Europe in those things. But right now, it's not part of American culture. You just do school, possibly more school, and
or
then
stop school.
Pay back your school with your job.
So that's it. All right.
Well, thanks so much for joining me on that education journey. I hope that you enjoyed immersing yourself over the last 2 hours with these English conversations. And now I have a question for you. In the comments, let me know, what topic would you like us to have a conversation about next? You can ask us a topic, and you can also ask us some questions that you would like us to cover in our conversation, and maybe you'll be lucky and we'll make a video about it. Well, don't forget to download the free PDF worksheet, which includes so much information. It includes every vocabulary, expression, definition, sample sentence, and you can take the quiz at the bottom of the worksheet so that you never forget the vocabulary that you've learned. You can click on the link in the description to download that free PDF worksheet today. It's a big one, but it's all for you. My gift to you. Well, thank you so much for learning English with me, and I'll see you again next Friday for a new lesson here on my YouTube channel. Bye. But wait, do you want more? I recommend watching this video next, where you will join me and my son Theo as we play a great card game called Uno. You can play this with your family and the kids in your life, or the adults in your life, and you'll learn how to do that in English in this video. I'll see you there.